What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and this is Regular Guy Training. Now, first, before I get into any of this, this is the only grunt style shirt that I actually like because it's not ridiculously obnoxious. Also, yeah, fuck this guy. So, yeah, I got it like pre-ordered right when I saw it because that ruling was bullshit. But now let's get on to the actual review. This is the Trijicon Accupower. Right, this is a variable power optic. There are a bunch of different variants out. The one that I got was the 1-4x24. And this also has the ballistic drop compensator to where the center dot in the reticle is your 200-yard line, to where you can zero it at 50, confirm at 200, and then the rest of the ballistic drop compensator tree is there. I'll go ahead and show you a picture of that reticle. Now, as far as the reticle is concerned, I personally like it because this is a 1-4, and I didn't intend on sticking this on anything other than a 223/5.56 rifle. I stuck this on a 20-inch gun just because the two together go very, very well. And I also have this guy riding on a American Defense mount because their mounts are actually really, really awesome. Now, as far as all of that is concerned, man, let's talk about this optic. Let's talk about what it does very, very well. And let's talk about other things, little issues. They're not even really issues, but little things here and there that you kind of sort of need to watch out for. Now, first thing, this is a second focal plane optic, which means when you shoulder the gun and if you dial up on the magnification or if you dial back down, the reticle size stays the same, right? On a single focal plane optic, you'll notice that the reticle decreases in size when you back off on the magnification, and then it increases in size when you dial up. I am not a huge fan of second focal plane optics, mostly because when I dial all the way back down to 1, it's not that big of a deal, obviously, because I'm shooting closer. That's why I dialed down in the first place. But you'll notice that there is a little bit, not a lot, a little bit of a dope change. So be aware of that. What this was made for, though, was for power and all that, as far as being able to engage at medium distances with the capability to do shorter. So I zero this at max power, and, you know, the dope change that comes from dialing down is not that much. It's usually from like 100 or so and in, unless I'm shooting at something small. So no big deal there, really. It is a big deal on larger magnification optics, but we're not talking about a precision rifle. We're talking about an optic made to better suit SDM type rolls and some shit like that, essentially. So that's my little personal quirk. If it doesn't bother you, then great, whatever. On the rear of the optic here, you have a focus adjustment, which is great, mostly because you'll notice that if you're shooting at different distances, there'll be a little bit of a fuzziness on target. And the cool thing about this optic is that you can essentially just get on it and sit there and dial it, or, you know, screw, unscrew, based on the variance in range that you find. And it's really important to have a nice clear focus of the target area. With more magnification, you also have to worry about reticle sharpness and stuff too, but again, that's not what this is for. Also, the reticle sharpness at anything I shot this at was very, very good. I haven't had to deal with any of that. And once this is better focused to as far as background or target area, you'll notice very quickly that, just like pretty much anything else that Trijicon puts out, the glass is very, very sharp, very, very clear. Now, there are some advantages that this has over the ACOG and some disadvantages. I don't like to do so much as a one-to-one comparison. You guys have noticed by now that usually I review an optic based, well, basically as a standalone rather than comparing to anything else. But rarely I'll go into a one-to-one comparison. And it's mostly because, you know, dudes in military circles I've seen kind of go for the, well, you know, the ACOG's awesome, and I agree, it's absolutely awesome. It's one of my favorite optics ever. Also one of the most battle-tested optics ever. But I want to be able to dial down because that dude's got an M4, and having an offset set of irons already with his front sight fixed tower and all that other shit could be a weight savings issue, because these aren't really light, right? Mount included, they're not exactly the lightest thing ever. So that dude doesn't want his M4A1 to be the heaviest goddamn rifle that's 14.5 inch, that has a 14.5 inch barrel ever. So he wants to think about this. Now, the pros, what it has in its corner over the ACOG for sure is its eye relief. Normally, as far as an ACOG is concerned, I am really close to the charging handle. And what's actually kind of funny is that, like, for my Mitch or my helmet or whatever, the nod shroud, pretty much any time that I would fire an ACOG and have proper eye relief and be squared up and all that stuff, the upper portion of the housing would sort of take a jab at that little nod shroud, which really it's not that big of a deal. All it is kind of awkward, and it turns into, okay, good eye relief now when it dings into the thing. But it's, as far as just kind of like a comfort deal, it's kind of nice to be able to back off a little bit more. This isn't a big deal. Like, this right here is good eye relief, and then once you get to about here, you start to see a bunch of scope shadow. So there's that. So the eye relief is greater for sure. As far as a con or something against it, is the fact that the field of view on target is not anywhere near as good. The field of view on an ACOG is enormous. It's absolutely enormous. And with this guy getting up on target and all that, even if it's dialed down to 1 power, and then you snap it up on target and stuff like that, you don't have much more, realistically speaking, as far as just where I'm out of field of view. I have my thumb at the edge of the field of view here, and you can actually see exactly how far that is from center. Like, here's the reticle center to center, and here's the edge of the field of view. So you don't have very much field of view compared to the ACOG, which is much more than that. So that is something to pay attention to. However, being able to dial down, that's its biggest pro. Being able to dial down or start at 1 and then go to 4 if you need it is actually really, really good if you have a rifle that, for one reason or another, cannot be as flexible as you would like it to, or just for weight savings, you're trying to just dial it down, be okay at 1, and then the purpose-driven stuff like that SDM that's got that ACOG, you can dial it up and go from there. No big deal. Now, there is a Reticle Illuminator on this, and that's on this side. And what's kind of neat about it, what's actually really nice about it, is that when you turn it up to one position, it'll light it up, and then when you turn to the next one, it'll turn it off. That's partially because the battery life on these is terrible. I think it's something like 600 hours or something like that. Yeah, it's comparable to an EOTech, but still, I want more battery life. It takes the standard watch battery that like the T1 does. Unless I'm mistaken, correct me in the comments if I am. I haven't changed this once. But the problem with it is that during the day, like right now, for instance, you barely notice that it's there in the first place. Like when you turn it on, it's this really, really dark amber, I'm sorry, not really amber. It's this really, really dark, dull maroon red, and you hardly even notice that it's there. So part of the reason why I haven't killed the battery in this optic is because I just don't use it. I don't have a use for anything that can't get bright enough for me to actually use it up close, which means I just have a black reticle to use. And as far as using it up close, it's not the fastest optic, variable power optic I've ever used. You can certainly get it done, but even in the shoot footage, you guys can tell it's not just the bulkiness of the 20-inch gun. The reticle itself is kind of busy. So for me personally, it's a little bit more difficult to shoot a little bit faster with it. But then again, that's not what it was really made for. It was made to do medium range stuff while occasionally dialing down and doing up close stuff. So not really that big of a deal there. Now, as far as the adjustments on it are concerned, I really, really, really love these. Okay. It's not like a lot of ACOGs where you have to get in there with the rim of a case. A lot of ACOGs have improved that, where it's just a knob now. But for the ballistic drop compensator guys, you don't have to worry about this so much. But these caps do lift up, and you can essentially set your turrets back to 0, which is awesome, without obviously changing your 0. So for those of you that are running the Mills or the MOA reticle, whatever, this is great because you can just kind of pop that guy to place, set it to 0, and then make turret adjustments on the fly if you have to, especially with the more powerful Accupowers that are out there. That's awesome for this type of optic, especially when you start getting into longer range shooting. So it's really important to have that. It's not, I'll admit, it's nowhere near as necessary on a ballistic drop compensator reticle, because for the most part, if I'm making windage changes at all, it's just windage. I'm not really doing elevation for the most part. It's more based on body holds rather than making turret corrections. That being said, though, 1/4 minute corrections, which is great for an optic designed to help you shoot a little bit farther away, and the turns themselves are very, very crisp. They're not very loud, but you feel them very, very well. And if I have to make adjustments on the fly, you actually saw in a little bit of the shoot footage, you can just unscrew the cap, keep the cap in your hand, which is huge, and there's serrations on it, so that really helps, especially with like gloved hands when it's cold. And you could turn it very easily. And obviously you can't hear it. There isn't a really snick-y type deal to them, but you feel them more than anything else. And that's what you need more of than anything, is you have to be able to feel it rather than hear it, in my opinion. So realistically speaking, I mean, what is there to say other than that? I mean, it's been a good clear glassed optic that's worked very good. It does have its issues as far as just is handling stuff up close, although it's not its wheelhouse, so I'm not going to hold that too terribly against it. As far as the close range game is concerned, there are certainly optics that do better than it. For instance, the Elcan Spectre DR does much better in 1 power than this guy does, and it's honestly better at just rotating from one to the other. This is like a lot of other variable power optics, to where you have to turn it, and you can get the in-betweens versus the 1 or the 4. And there's also a provision to screw in a little long bar doodad, so it's easier to go from one to the other. I've never really cared to do it because I don't have a problem going from one side to the other. It's not that big of a deal to me. So all in all, as far as what it was designed for, as far as shooting a little bit farther away, it does great. Really, it does. As far as shooting up close, it leaves some to be desired for sure, and I believe that there are better optics in its class that handle the up close stuff. However, as far as the BDC is concerned, as far as shooting farther away, I've taken this guy out to 600 before, and as far as using like XM193 or something like that, it performs very, very, very well. You have to understand that with ballistic drop compensators, depending on wind speeds or temperature outside, how warm the actual ammunition is, how hot the gun is, that type of stuff, you could have little variance here and there. But as far as the ballistic drop compensator is concerned, the measurements are good as far as the shoulder width at those distances, and as far as being a little off here and there, it has not been bad at all. I've certainly seen worse. So it's also been a hardy optic too. This guy's been through several classes. Students have used this. I've used this in several classes. This was on a shorter gun before, and it performs it has performed very admirably across the board. You guys know that I don't really baby my gear. You guys know that my guns about never see themselves inside of cases. So as far as just riding around in a trunk and all that stuff, I haven't had any zero loss problems, anything like that. And this guy has seen quite a few thousand rounds through it. We're looking now at about 7 on various different guns, about 7,000 rounds, all on the AR type rifle. But I tell you what, it works out very, very well. Under every circumstance I put it under. It's been shot while it's real hot outside. I took this guy to cold weather carbine with a SIG Academy. It worked great in those conditions. It's dealt really well with like sugar, sand, and clay and all that. So I love it. If you like Trijicon products and you're looking for a variable 1-4, I wouldn't hesitate to pick this guy up if the price doesn't kill you, because with this guy comes a price tag just like any other Trijicon product. With the mount included, we're looking at about $1,000. which is not the worst that you have to deal with. I've certainly seen worse on different variable power optics like Steiner and shit. But it isn't the cheapest optic I've ever bought either. So, but then again, the case can be made to where, you know, you get what you pay for. So, it is what it is. Well, that's all I have on this particular review. If you end up getting one of these guys and you want to come through one of our classes to help be taught how to use it at close and medium ranges, you can absolutely check out our website, and there are a bunch of mobile classes that are on offer there. There are, as far as rifle classes, we got one going down in January in Louisiana. We got one going down in December this month, the middle of this month, for Maine. And also in January, if you want to test your metal on one of these in a closer atmosphere, you can absolutely check out our January class at Buds. It'll be an indoor class, which I think is great because we can do a lot of indoor-centric stuff with rifles. If you don't want to take one of these out there and you want to bring your SBR with that little tiny red dot or something like that, great, because this will be a more indoor-centric rifle class than anything else. So I'd absolutely jump on that because we can turn off the lights at random and help you out with bright and dark stuff, hint, hint. So I would absolutely check that out. If you want to support the Soldier program, or if you want to train with us super duper cheap, you can support us through Patreon. As far as the training is concerned, it's real easy because all you really have to do is sign up for the $35 a month program. And if you do that, you train with us for as long as you're signed up to that. So if you're paying full price for our already cheap classes, I'll tell you what I've told any other student that's come through that's paid full price, that's dumb. It is, because you can save a lot of money and you can train with us a lot, which, you know, why wouldn't you seize that opportunity? The system's built to be abused, so abuse it. Get on that program and abuse the shit out of the program. I don't care. That's what I made it for. So there you go. And also it helps us bring out individual soldiers and get them trained up for nothing on their end. Like, we pay for everything, and that's what the Patreon thing is for. So if you want to join us on the discussion page on Facebook, I have a link for that in the description below. Also, all of this I have a link in the description for, like classes, Patreon, all that. Go ahead and check all those out. And you know what? That's all I really have. So remember, guys, regular guy's firearm is the last defense against tyranny. Be easy. And fuck Bergdahl.